What do you mean the investor pulled out? Nathan Carter's frustration echoed through the sleek, high-ceilinged office, drawing glances from nearby employees. He stood near the reception desk, phone pressed tightly to his ear, his jaw clenched as irritation flashed across his face. At 27, Nathan wasn't the traditional corporate executive. He was part of a new wave of entrepreneurs, sharp, ambitious, and tech-savvy, who approached real estate with an innovative mindset. His specialty? Revamping old, overlooked properties into high-end boutique retreats, a strategy that had earned him both wealth and recognition in the business world. This morning was supposed to be a milestone, the finalization of a crucial investment that would fund his latest venture, Silverwood Retreat, a luxury countryside escape. But now, in a single phone call, everything had unraveled. His assistant, Olivia, glanced up from her tablet, concern flickering in her eyes. "Is everything okay?" Nathan ended the call with a sharp sigh, shaking his head. "No, that was our biggest investor. They pulled out at the last minute." Running a hand through his tousled brown hair, he exhaled in frustration. "I've spent months planning Silverwood Retreat. I can't afford to lose it now." Olivia skimmed through her notes. There are still other possibilities. Smaller investors, some local businesses, but none with the capital to cover the bulk of the funding. She hesitated before adding, "Maybe it's time to set up more pitch meetings? Expand your search?" Nathan paced across the glossy marble floor, the sprawling city skyline visible through the towering windows behind him. He finally nodded. "Looks like I don't have a choice." He glanced at his watch. "Tomorrow, I'm heading out to Willow Ridge to finalize the land deal with the farm owner. Maybe I'll find some leads there." Olivia gave him a knowing look. "Don't underestimate small-town connections. You might be surprised." Nathan let out a dry chuckle. "Doubtful. These are farmers, not venture capitalists. I'll buy the land and keep looking for real investors in the city." He shrugged on his tailored suit jacket and strode toward the elevator, still seething from the unexpected setback. Despite all his past successes, this deal was slipping through his fingers, and without fresh capital, his dream of transforming the serene countryside into a world-class luxury retreat might vanish altogether. The next morning, Nathan hit the road before sunrise, steering his sleek SUV away from the city's towering glass buildings. As the highway gave way to rolling hills, he felt a subtle shift, something like relief. Golden fields stretched endlessly on either side of the road, interrupted only by weathered red barns and towering oak trees. The landscape was simple, untouched, and for a fleeting moment he found himself appreciating its quiet charm. His destination was the Lockwood Farm, a sprawling property near a glistening lake. Thomas Lockwood, the farm's longtime owner, had agreed to sell under the impression that Nathan's development plans would preserve the land's natural beauty. Of course, Nathan's real vision was something far more ambitious, a lavish retreat that would redefine countryside luxury. He just needed the money to make it happen. "I'll blend it with the landscape," Nathan murmured to himself. "Keep the rustic charm, just with high-end amenities." As he arrived in Willow Ridge, he turned onto a narrow gravel road leading toward the Lockwood Farm. The morning sun stretched long shadows across the yard, where a handful of chickens scratched at the dirt. Nathan pulled up near a weathered picket fence and checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. Sharp navy suit, crisp white shirt, polished shoes. Not a speck of dust. He had made a conscious decision to look professional, even if his audience was a small-town farming family. As he stepped out, inhaling the fresh country air, the front door creaked open before he could even knock. A young woman, early 20s maybe, stood in the doorway, balancing a basket of freshly gathered eggs. She wore faded jeans and a simple plaid shirt, her chestnut brown hair pulled into a low ponytail. Her wide green eyes flickered with curiosity as she studied him. Hi," Nathan said, momentarily caught off guard. "Is Thomas Lockwood home? I'm Nathan Carter, here about the land purchase." She tilted her head, a slow, knowing smile forming. "So, you're the big-shot city guy planning to turn Willow Ridge into a luxury retreat?" Nathan bristled slightly at her tone. "I'm not turning anything into anything, just developing a small part of it into a high-end resort. It'll bring revenue to the community." He hesitated, then added, "Are you Mr. Lockwood's daughter?" She nodded and set the basket down. That's right, I'm Emily Lockwood. My dad mentioned you'd be coming. He's out back checking on the horses. I'll take you to him. Nathan's eyes flicked to the eggs in her basket, noticing how carefully she handled them. A typical farm girl, he thought. Simple. Probably had no interest in the complexities of business deals. All right, he said, forcing a polite smile. Lead the way. They walked around the farmhouse, passing neat rows of vegetable patches and a red barn that had clearly seen decades of use. Emily moved effortlessly across the uneven ground, while Nathan, in his polished dress shoes, stumbled slightly over loose dirt and gravel. The air smelled of hay, wildflowers, and distant livestock. Earthy, unpolished, nothing like the sterile scent of his downtown office. So, Mr. Carter, Emily said casually, glancing at him as they walked, what exactly do you plan to do with the farmland once we sell it? My father wasn't very specific, just said you were offering a fair price. Nathan steadied himself on a fence post before answering. It'll be a premier retreat. Luxury cabins, spa facilities, maybe even a small golf course. It'll attract high-end tourists and boost local commerce. She looked thoughtful. Ugh. And how do the local farmers feel about that? We're used to wide-open spaces. Golf courses don't exactly top our list of priorities. He caught the skepticism in her tone. I assure you, Emily, it'll be done tastefully. I respect the land here. She nodded but didn't look entirely convinced. We'll see. They rounded the barn and found Thomas Lockwood brushing down a chestnut mare. He was in his late 50s, with strong hands and a warm but weathered face. Though he smiled, there was a trace of concern behind his eyes. Nathan Carter, right? He said, extending a hand. Nathan shook it firmly. Thanks for meeting with me, Mr. Lockwood. I appreciate your time. Of course. Let's talk in the barn office. The office was small and dusty, the scent of leather and hay filling the space. Emily leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, while Nathan perched on a stool, carefully laying out the necessary documents. Thomas flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing slightly. So, you want to buy all 70 acres? He asked. That includes our orchard, a stretch of the lakeshore, and part of our grazing fields. Nathan nodded. I can offer a premium price, as long as we finalize everything within the next few weeks. I have a timeline to keep. Thomas exhaled slowly, setting the papers down. I only hope you'll keep your word about preserving some of the farmland. This community means a lot to me. My father built this orchard from nothing, and that lake's been a favorite fishing spot for generations. Nathan managed a reassuring smile, though he could feel his own sense of urgency creeping in. Mr. Lockwood, I understand, and I promise I'm looking to create something that blends with the natural beauty here. Still, he could tell, the old man wasn't fully convinced yet, and neither was his daughter. Mr. Lockwood, trust me, I want this to be a top-tier resort that respects local traditions, Nathan said confidently. We'll keep the outer edges for scenic tours, maybe even brand it as part of the resort's charm. As they discussed the details, Emily's sharp green eyes remained fixed on Nathan. She spoke little, but her occasional scoffs and subtle frowns made her skepticism clear. After an hour of negotiations, they reached a preliminary agreement, a fair price, a partial deposit, and a timeline for the official closing. Nathan stood, extending a handshake. I'll have my legal team draft the final contract. I appreciate your cooperation, Mr. Lockwood. Thomas clasped his hand firmly. You drive a hard bargain, son, but you seem earnest. Let's just hope everything goes smoothly. Emily's voice cut in, quiet but firm. Sometimes things don't go as smoothly as city folks imagine. Willow Ridge is bigger than your vision boards. Nathan stiffened. I get that, but I'm prepared to see this through. Their eyes locked, tension flickering between them. He could sense her disapproval, but she was just a farmer's daughter, probably uninvolved in the financial side of things. He shrugged it off. He had bigger concerns now, securing the investment to break ground. What he didn't know was just how central Emily Lockwood would become, not just to the deal, but to his entire future. This was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew. The days following Nathan's visit to Willow Ridge were a blur of phone calls, meetings, and desperate attempts to secure the major funding needed to begin construction. The Lockwood Farm agreement hinged on his ability to prove he could finance the build. Otherwise, the deal could fall apart. One afternoon, as he sifted through emails, a message from his bank caught his eye. Loan application denied. His stomach clenched. He had counted on that sizable loan to supplement his own capital. Now, with the rejection, he risked running short. Frustration burned through him as he marched into Olivia's workspace. "The bank just turned me down," he said, his jaw tight. "They think the Silverwood Resort concept is too risky, too rural, uncertain ROI. Olivia's face fell. "That's not good. Maybe we can reapply or find a different lender." Nathan paced like a caged animal. "We could, but it'll take time we don't have. The Lockwoods want a deposit soon, or they might consider other offers. Our window is closing, Olivia." She sighed, thinking, "What about private investors? We've tried some, but maybe we need to broaden our reach. Could we pitch the project at an upcoming venture forum?" Nathan raked a hand through his hair. "I can try, but the ones I've approached either want too much control or don't believe in building a resort in farmland. Everyone's cautious." He slumped into a chair, uncharacteristic defeat tugging at him. "If only my first big investor hadn't backed out," he muttered. "Or if I could find just one person who believes in Willow Ridge's potential." Olivia's voice softened. "Don't lose hope, Nathan. You have a talent for turning improbable ventures into successes. Something will come through." He inhaled deeply, nodding. He had never been this close to seeing a dream slip away. Silverwood Resort meant everything to him. He prided himself on transforming overlooked spaces into luxurious destinations. But now, the numbers weren't adding up. A few days later, Nathan found himself driving back to Lockwood Farm. He had promised Thomas Lockwood an update, but he dreaded admitting the funding crisis. He hoped to buy more time, maybe renegotiate the deadlines. As he pulled up the gravel driveway, he spotted Emily feeding the chickens by the barn. The morning sun lit her hair, giving it a golden hue. She noticed him and set down the feed bucket, raising an eyebrow. "Back again, city man? Don't you have bigger fish to fry?" Her tone was playful, but her eyes still held a trace of wariness. Nathan forced a thin smile. "I need to speak with your father. Is he around?" Emily nodded toward the orchard. "He's checking on the apple trees." Then her gaze flickered over his tense posture. "Something wrong?" Nathan hesitated. He had planned to keep his financial troubles private, but Emily's directness caught him off guard. "Just some complications," he said stiffly. "Don't worry about it." She shrugged. "Suit yourself. But if you think you can hide things from my dad, good luck." They walked through neat rows of apple trees, many of them in bloom, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. Thomas Lockwood stood among them, pruning the branches, his weathered face lighting up when he saw Nathan. "Morning, son. Everything going as planned?" Nathan swallowed. "Actually, I might need a slight extension on the deposit date. My funding timeline is shifting." Thomas frowned, leaning against the trunk of a gnarled apple tree. "That's not what we agreed on, Nathan. I turned down another buyer because you seemed certain." Nathan felt his face heat. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm working on securing new investors. I just need a few more weeks, maybe a month." Thomas sighed heavily. "A month, huh? I suppose we can do that, provided it's actually feasible." Emily, who had been quiet up until now, crossed her arms. "I told Dad that you might not see this land the same way we do." Thomas gave her a pointed look. Now, Emily, hold on." He turned back to Nathan. "I just want you to understand, we care deeply about these acres. If you can't secure the funds soon, we'll have to reconsider. We can't wait forever." Nathan's chest tightened. "I promise, I won't let you down." Thomas studied him for a long moment before nodding. "All right, 1 month, but after that we'll have to look elsewhere." As they walked back toward the farmhouse, Emily suddenly turned to Nathan. "You're risking a lot on this dream. Are you sure you know what you're doing?" The question stung. He had spent years proving himself, yet here he was, scrambling. "Yes, Emily," he said, his frustration rising. "I've built successful projects before. I can do it again." She studied him closely. "Then why do you look so uncertain? You don't fool me." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Because it's complicated, okay? Money doesn't grow on trees." He let out a sharp exhale. "Ironically, my original investor bailed, my bank loan got denied, and now I'm scrambling for a solution." A flicker of sympathy crossed her face, but she didn't let up. Crossing her arms, she asked, "So what happens if you don't get the money in time?" My family sells the land to someone else, maybe a developer who tears everything down. Nathan bristled. I'm not the bad guy here, Emily. I want to preserve the orchard's charm. I'm just stuck right now. She bit her lip, glancing back at the trees. I don't want Willow Ridge turning into a soulless resort, but Dad says you offer decent terms, and if you can't buy it, who knows what the next buyer will do. He nodded grimly. Exactly, so trust me, I'll find a way. For a moment, their gazes locked, tension mixed with an unexpected mutual concern. Finally, Emily took a step back and nodded. Okay then, I hope you succeed. That evening, Nathan was invited to stay for dinner. A courtesy from Thomas, who insisted on hospitality. Around the worn wooden table in the cozy farmhouse kitchen, they shared homemade stew, cornbread, and lively conversation about the unpredictable weather and orchard management. Nathan expected the usual small-town chatter, but Emily surprised him. She spoke with sharp insight about farmland economics and produce distribution channels, far from the naive country girl he had assumed she was. For the first time, he found himself intrigued by her. The earlier friction between them remained, but beneath it he sensed a growing respect. When she teased him about city dwellers being clueless in the country, he shot back. Guess I'll need country lessons to navigate a tractor. They laughed, the tension between them easing, at least for the moment. After dessert, Emily walked Nathan out, the night air crisp around them. Overhead, the stars burned brilliantly, the quiet hum of crickets filling the space between them. Thanks for dinner, Nathan said softly. Your family's kindness is refreshing. Emily gave a small smile. We might disagree on what to do with this land, but we're not monsters. She hesitated, scuffing the toe of her boot against the gravel. And I meant what I said. I hope you pull it off. Willow Ridge is better in your hands than some reckless corporations. A flicker of warmth spread through Nathan's chest at her admission. I won't forget that, he murmured. As he drove away under the moonlight, a storm of emotions churned inside him. Determination, uncertainty, and something else he couldn't quite name. He needed a miracle investor, and soon. Otherwise, everything, the farmland, the orchard, and this fragile, unexpected connection with Emily, would slip through his fingers. Back in the city, time was running out. Each morning, Nathan scoured his contacts, pitched to wealthy acquaintances, and even toyed with the idea of crowdfunding. The calendar in Olivia's office loomed like a countdown to disaster, marking the final day of his month-long extension. 1 week left. The weight of it settled heavily on his shoulders. Then, one afternoon, Olivia burst into his office, her eyes alight with excitement. You won't believe this, she said, barely containing her energy. A private investment group just reached out. They're interested in backing Silverwood Resort. Nathan jolted upright. What? That's incredible. Did they mention terms? How did they hear about us? No details yet. They want to remain anonymous until the meeting, Olivia admitted. But they sound serious. A spark of hope reignited in Nathan's chest. If this group agreed to fund the project, he could finally secure the Lockwood farmland before the deadline. Let's finalize a killer presentation, he said, already shifting into full gear. This might be our last shot. Nathan had spent hours meticulously preparing a sleek multimedia pitch, detailed renderings of the resort, projected financial returns, and a heartfelt narrative about blending luxury with Willow Ridge's rural heritage. Dressed in a sharp navy suit, he and Olivia headed to a high-rise downtown where the mysterious investment group had arranged a private meeting. When they entered the rented conference room, Nathan immediately noted that only 2 people were waiting inside. One was a stern-looking older gentleman in a pinstriped suit. The other was a younger woman, her back turned as she typed on a tablet. The older man extended a hand. Mr. Carter, I'm Adrian Cross. This is my associate. He gestured toward the woman, who remained focused on her screen. Nathan nodded and set up his presentation, shaking off a flicker of nerves. Thank you for meeting with me, he said smoothly. I'm eager to share Silverwood Resort's potential. For the next half hour, he presented with passion, breaking down costs, outlining revenue forecasts, and emphasizing his commitment to preserving the land's natural beauty. Olivia provided supporting data, and Nathan handled tough questions from Cross, addressing concerns about construction phases, local hiring, and potential pushback from the community. Finally, Adrian Cross leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Impressive. Your track record speaks for itself, despite your recent setback with your original investor. He glanced at his associate. Shall we? The woman rose, turning to face Nathan. His words died in his throat. It was Emily Lockwood. For a split second he thought he must be imagining things. But no, there she stood, her hair swept into a sleek bun, dressed in a tailored blazer and pencil skirt, exuding quiet confidence. The farmer's daughter was here in a corporate setting. Nathan's heart pounded. Emily? He breathed. What's going on? Her gaze remained steady, though a faint color rose to her cheeks. Hello, Nathan, she said calmly. Let's just say I'm not just the country girl you assumed. Adrian Cross nodded respectfully toward her, a subtle but clear acknowledgement. She wasn't just his associate, she was either his boss or an equal. A stunned silence gripped the room. Olivia blinked, her jaw slightly open. You're the associate? The potential investor? Nathan could only stare as everything he thought he knew about Emily Lockwood shattered in an instant. Nathan stared, completely thrown. Investor? He stammered. Adrian Cross folded his arms. Miss Lockwood's family is quite prominent in certain circles. She heads a private investment fund focused on sustainable projects, among other ventures. She asked me to keep her involvement discreet until she was sure your concept was viable. Nathan's heart pounded. Emily Lockwood, Thomas Lockwood's daughter. Not just a farmer's daughter, but an investor. And not just any investor. The investor who could save his project. His mind reeled. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, turning to Emily. She lifted her chin slightly, a gentle challenge in her gaze. Would you have believed me if I told you back at the farm, or would you have seen me differently? Memories of his offhanded remarks, about her being just a country girl, about small-town folks not having millions to spare, flashed through his mind. Heat crawled up his neck. I guess not, he admitted. Emily's expression softened just a little. When my father told me about your plan, I had doubts. But I also had access to a separate fund that invests in hospitality projects, ones with an eco-conscious angle. So I wanted to see if you were genuine. I tested you, let you reveal your true intentions for Willow Ridge. She paused, a faint smile tugging at her lips. And well, we still have our differences. But I believe you're sincere. I believe you actually want to preserve the orchard. So, here we are. Nathan exhaled, the weight of everything crashing over him. She had been watching him all along, not just as an investor, but as someone who truly cared about what happened to her home. Olivia broke the moment, her voice trembling with excitement. So does this mean you're prepared to back Silverwood Resort, Miss Lockwood? Emily exchanged a look with Adrian Cross before nodding. Yes, if certain conditions are met. Nathan straightened. Anything. Name them. We want written assurances that farmland preservation is a priority, Emily said. We also want local farmers to supply produce to the resort's restaurant, and I want input on design changes to ensure the orchard's ecosystem remains intact. Nathan found himself nodding, hard. Yes, absolutely. We can incorporate all of that. I want the resort to celebrate Willow Ridge's heritage, not erase it. Then he turned to Emily, sincerity clear in his voice. Thank you for believing in me. Even after He hesitated. Well, even after I might have been dismissive about the countryside. She regarded him steadily. I was never offended by your ambition, but I needed to be sure you wouldn't exploit Willow Ridge. If we invest, we want a partner who actually respects local values. Nathan let out a breath, relief washing over him. I do. I promise. Emily extended her hand. Then let's make this dream a reality. Their handshake was firm, her green eyes shining with both triumph and something more. Everything shifted, the second major turning point in Nathan's journey. The so-called farmer's daughter was, in fact, the biggest investor he could have hoped for. And somehow, in the midst of all this, the lines between personal and professional had blurred in the most unexpected way. The meeting wrapped up with formalities, Cross and Emily promising to send over a term sheet. Olivia was beaming, practically vibrating with excitement. Nathan, on the other hand, was navigating a swirling mess of emotions. He had won. The deal was saved. But he also felt humbled. He thought back to Emily standing in the orchard, skeptical, guarded. And now she was the key to everything. As they exited the conference room, Emily lingered behind the others. She glanced at Nathan, a small, knowing smile playing at her lips. "You know, I wasn't trying to trick you," she said lightly. "I just wanted to see who you were without the investor mask on." Nathan scratched the back of his neck, a sheepish grin forming. "I get it. You saw me at my worst. Maybe that's for the best." She hesitated before adding softly, "I believe we can do great things together for Willow Ridge." Warmth spread through Nathan's chest. He held her gaze, something unspoken passing between them. "I won't let you down," he promised. Their eyes locked, a spark flickering between them, something deeper than just business. As Emily turned to go, Nathan caught her elbow gently. "Hey," he said, his voice quieter now. "If you're free, maybe we could talk more about the orchard. Over dinner, soon." Emily's smile deepened, her eyes glinting with something unreadable. "I'd love to." Emily studied his face, a curious blend of caution and something softer in her gaze. "Dinner?" She let the word linger before nodding. "Sure, let's do that." And just like that, the puzzle pieces clicked into place. Emily Lockwood was no ordinary country girl. She was a formidable investor, deeply tied to this land in ways Nathan had never fully understood. And for all his big city bravado, he realized he had never met a woman quite like her, quietly powerful, unwaveringly loyal to her roots. Suddenly, Silverwood Resort was no longer just another business venture. It was something deeper, a responsibility, a partnership, a bridge between his vision and her legacy. With Emily's investment on the horizon, Nathan threw himself into finalizing the resort plans. Over the next few weeks, tension eased as his financial security strengthened. He paid the Lockwoods' deposit right on schedule, officially securing the farmland deal. Meanwhile, Emily's involvement reshaped the project. She pushed for eco-friendly modifications, expanding orchard-themed tours, partnering with local farms to supply the resort's restaurant, and ensuring minimal environmental disruption. But their newfound alliance wasn't without friction. Emily had strong opinions about preserving the authenticity of the farmland. Nathan, on the other hand, aimed for a polished, upscale feel, one that sometimes clashed with her more rustic, preservationist mindset. One afternoon, standing over blueprints laid across a makeshift table near the orchard, the tension between them boiled over. "You can't pave over half the orchard entrance," Emily said, her arms crossed. "It'll ruin the scenic approach." Nathan gestured at the plans. "Guests will be arriving in vehicles, some in luxury cars. They'll need a smooth drive and convenient parking. If it's all dirt and gravel, we risk bad first impressions." Her cheeks flushed. "Are you designing for comfort alone, or do you actually want an immersive rural experience? Because Willow Ridge's charm is in its landscape, Nathan." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "We can find a middle ground. What if we do a partial paved lane, partial gravel walkway?" "I'm not ignoring your concerns, Emily." She pressed her lips together, clearly still skeptical. But after a pause, she gave a reluctant nod. "All right, minimal paving. Nothing more." It was an uneasy compromise, but a compromise nonetheless. Emily turned away, scanning the blooming apple trees that framed the property. "I know how important it is to please your future guests, but She hesitated, her voice quieter now. "I can't stand the thought of seeing this place buried in concrete." Nathan hesitated before placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I get it, I really do. Let's bring in a landscaping expert, someone who can help us balance nature and convenience." She sighed, tension slipping from her posture. "Thank you. She glanced around. "This orchard is personal to me. My grandfather planted these trees. I grew up running around here." Nathan's gaze softened. "And I want your future kids to be able to do the same. Let's be partners in this, Emily." Something flickered across her face, an emotion she quickly masked. They were building more than a business together. They were blending her roots with his ambition. As construction finally began, Nathan spent most days on site, overseeing the resort's progress. Emily was frequently there too, sometimes with her father, sometimes with local farmers, sometimes with Adrian Cross, reviewing numbers and contracts. But in the quiet moments, when they weren't debating logistics or signing documents, they stole time together. They walked the lake's edge, discussing orchard management and new marketing strategies. Their banter turned from clashing arguments into playful teasing, the lines between business and something else blurring more each day. One evening, after a particularly long day, they wandered beneath the orchard's canopy, the setting sun casting streaks of orange and pink across the sky. The scent of apple blossoms drifted on the warm breeze. Emily gazed at the partially constructed cabins nestled among the old oak trees. "The progress is incredible," she murmured. "You've really made sure there's minimal disruption. I appreciate that." Nathan hesitated for only a second before sliding his hand into hers. Tentative, testing. She didn't pull away. "Couldn't have done it without you." Nathan let out a breath, his eyes sweeping over the orchard, now bathed in golden twilight. "I've realized something," he said softly. "Willow Ridge isn't just another business venture. It's special." Emily squeezed his hand gently. "It's always been special to me," she admitted, "but now I see it transforming in a way I never imagined. If we can truly blend luxury and farmland, maybe we'll create something that helps this community thrive." Nathan turned to face her, his heart thrumming. "We will," he promised. "And Emily, I'm grateful for seeing potential in me, in this project, even when I was completely clueless about rural life." A playful smile touched her lips. "You've learned a lot. You even managed to drive a tractor without stalling it." Nathan chuckled. "Well, I had a great teacher." Their eyes locked, unspoken feelings flickering between them. Slowly, he leaned closer, testing the moment. Emily's gaze flicked to his lips, then back to his eyes. The orchard rustled in the evening breeze, a quiet hush settling around them. Then, they kissed. Soft, warm, a realization passing between them that their connection was no longer just about business. When they finally pulled away, Emily let out a small, breathy laugh. "Looks like we're merging more than just farmland and resort plans." Nathan brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, his voice low. "Indeed, now it's personal." Months later, Silverwood Resort was nearly complete. Wooden cabins offered panoramic views of the orchard and lake. A farm-to-table restaurant sourced fresh produce from local farmers. A luxury spa was discreetly nestled among groves of pine. But the orchard remained the heart of everything, untouched, its trails winding beneath branches heavy with fruit. Nathan planned a soft opening, inviting select guests and local officials. Emily, ever committed to the community, organized a charity gala, with proceeds supporting small farms in the area. The day arrived, shimmering with possibility. People in elegant attire mingled with locals, admiring the seamless blend of modern luxury and rustic charm. Thomas Lockwood stood nearby, pride shining in his eyes as guests sampled apple-infused dishes, thanks to Emily's careful input. Olivia, beaming, managed event logistics with flawless precision. Adrian Cross conversed with potential investors, already singing the resort's praises. Nathan, dressed in a tailored suit, but with rugged boots instead of polished dress shoes, a quiet tribute to Emily, guided visitors along the orchard trails and into the main lodge. Triumph swelled in his chest. They had done it. But more than just his victory, he knew now. This wasn't just his dream anymore. Emily's unwavering belief, her financial backing, and her deep connection to the land had shaped everything. That evening, as the gala buzzed with celebration, Nathan wandered to the lake's edge. The water shimmered beneath strands of fairy lights reflecting the night sky. The hum of conversation and distant laughter drifted from the orchard behind him. Emily found him there, slipping her arm through his. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "Just how we dreamed." He turned to her, awe and gratitude written across his face. "We did it. Together." She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "A month ago, you were on the verge of losing everything," she teased. "And now look at us, celebrating a new chapter for Willow Ridge." Nathan exhaled happily. "I never expected that the farmer's daughter would be the biggest investor in my life." Emily blushed at his affectionate tone. Then a playful spark lit her eyes. "And I never thought a city entrepreneur could learn to appreciate real partnership. But you proved me wrong." Nathan turned, his voice quieter now. "I don't just care about Willow Ridge, Emily. I care about you." She didn't need to answer. Instead, she simply leaned in, meeting him halfway. They kissed, soft, lingering, while lanterns cast a golden glow over the lake. From the distance, applause and laughter echoed through the orchard. Silverwood Resort was officially a success, a place where big dreams, deep roots, and true partnership had woven together into something neither of them had ever expected. As laughter and conversation filled the air, Nathan and Emily stood by the lake, taking in the moment. The Silverwood Resort was more than just a business triumph. It was a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and unexpected partnerships. He had once believed success was built on numbers and strategy, but now he knew it was also built on trust, respect, and a willingness to see beyond first impressions. Emily had once feared that progress meant losing her family's legacy, but now she saw that the right kind of progress could preserve it. Together, they had merged two worlds, one of ambition, one of tradition, into something greater than either of them had imagined. And in the process, they had found something even more valuable than success. They had found each other. A young entrepreneur once thought a farmer's daughter was just a country girl, until she became his greatest investor. We hope this story warmed your heart and reminded you that true potential often lies where we least expect it. If you enjoyed this tale, we invite you to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories, where romance, ambition, and uplifting surprises come together to create unforgettable journeys. Bookmark, go back, join us today, and never miss another captivating story.